Think of a caveman, and you probably picture a knuckle-dragging brute who points at the moon and grunts. That is the universally accepted brand. Now picture a guy named Grok. He is squatting in the dirt next to a small fire, coughing on smoke, when he reaches into a hole and pulls out a blob of glistening black goo. Grok has no idea he is holding the very first synthetic material in the history of planet Earth. While stone tools had been around for ages, this was the first time a hominin used a chemical transformation to manufacture something that didn't exist in nature. That single sticky blob is a problem for our history books, because the physical evidence it leaves behind completely ruins the cartoon version of our ancestors. The goo Grok made is called birch tar. You extract it by heating the peeling white bark of a birch tree. And Neanderthals, the heavy-browed hominins we usually stick in museum displays looking confused, were successfully manufacturing this stuff roughly 200,000 years ago. Our own species, modern Homo sapiens, did not figure out the recipe until about 70,000 years ago. Do the math. We were the slow kids in this particular class. The guys we put in museum dioramas looking completely lost beat us to complex chemical production by 130,000 years. You might assume extracting this tar is easy, but you cannot simply throw birch bark onto a campfire. This gauge visualization shows the problem. Birch tar only forms in a cruelly narrow temperature window. A campfire is far too hot, and a kitchen oven is too cool. You must hit a precise target between 350 and 400 degrees. If you run too cool, you get a face full of smoke and zero tar. If you run too hot, your precious black goo bursts into flame and burns away. Early hominins consistently threaded that needle. They hit a thermal target tighter than your home appliances can manage, without a single thermometer, dial, or instruction manual. They did it with sticks, dirt, and raw patience. Researchers have found several ways Grok's people made this work, but the most complex method is a genuine showstopper. They built a container out of bark, buried it in a pit, covered it in soil, and lit a fire right on top. Grok's neighbors were definitely wondering why on earth anyone would hide their fire in the ground, where nobody could even see the cooking process. This cross-section shows exactly why they buried it. The soil barrier visibly blocks oxygen molecules from reaching the heat source. By starving the environment of oxygen, the heat slowly breaks the bark down into a black liquid, instead of letting it catch fire and turn to useless ash. Scientists call this process dry distillation in an oxygen-restricted environment. That buried pit is a calculated piece of engineering. The hominin squatting in the dirt was effectively running a subterranean distillery. We know this for a fact because the method leaves chemical fingerprints. When researchers analyze the tar, they find clear signatures from soil minerals and a telling lack of soot from an open flame. It was cooked underground entirely on purpose. Over tens of thousands of years, Grok's descendants stopped being mere cooks and started modifying the basic recipe. They began making compound adhesives by mixing in multiple ingredients. In places like South Africa, archaeologists found glue containing chunks of red ochre, an iron-rich stone, mixed with sticky plant gum. The ochre made the glue less brittle and helped it resist moisture. To pull off a two-part epoxy like that, you have to gather materials, manage a fuel budget, track the temperature, and measure proportions. These ancient humans were juggling abstract concepts in their heads, planning for a future result. Take a look at these stone points. All this effort solved an immediate survival problem. A sharp rock will cut your hand, but if you attach it to a wooden handle, a technique called hafting, you have a spear. Birch tar was the invisible force holding civilization's earliest toolkit together. It turned underwhelming rocks into axes and long-range weapons that gave our ancestors an essential advantage in a dangerous world. But recent chemical tests reveal a wild secondary use. The black goo is highly effective at killing bacteria, including the aggressive bugs behind serious skin infections. It is highly likely hominins noticed that wounds dressed with the stinky black glue healed better. So when they finished building a spear, they could smear the leftover tar on their cuts and scrapes. The exact creature we have spent a century treating as a joke was simultaneously operating a combination hardware store and pharmacy out of a smoky pit. Some scientists do push back on crowning Grok a genius. They point out that a crude version of birch tar can form completely by accident if bark happens to burn against a hard stone next to a campfire. Both sides of this academic brawl have a point. The first time a caveman touched sticky black gunk on a rock, it was pure luck. But building a sealed, oxygen-starved underground chamber requires deliberate, frustrating, repeated failure. Human intelligence rarely starts with a spontaneous master plan. It starts when a curious creature stares at a lucky accident and stubbornly refuses to walk away until they figure out how to do it again, but better. The wheel had to wait. The written word had to wait. Even building cities had to wait. First, we needed the glue that held our earliest survival tools together. So give a nod to Grok, coughing in the dirt, smelling like a tire fire, holding up his sticky trophy. If watching our ancient ancestors out-science modern expectations put a smile on your face, hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button to help more people find this corner of Stone Age history, and tell me in the comments, what is the most surprising thing you have ever learned about early humans? Stay curious, and I'll see you next time.